Ladies, gentlemen, Conquest, Candy Moody Coneheads with those extended lifespans. To today's video, where you and I are going to be ranking all of the Conquest units in Star Wars Galaxy Heroes from the best to the very worst. And boy, I didn't realize it, but we haven't made this video in a long time. There have been like 10 Conquest units since the last time we made this video, and I'm glad you liked that one. And I'm hoping you're gonna like this one because, well, we got even more that we gotta deal with. So 15 units, I wanna see your rankings down below. And without further ado, let's get this show on the road. So folks, here's what we got. We have 11 Conquest characters with the number 12 one on the way, Ezra Bridger Exile, and we have ourselves 4 Conquest ships here. Here's the biggest issue that I'm gonna run into, and I'm just gonna kind of tell you how to really look at this video. This video is gonna try to combine both ships and character rankings, which is kind of hard. It's like, how do you rank, I don't know, Michael Jordan against Tom Brady against Messi? They're all playing 3 different sports, and they're very good at what they're doing. That's kind of the problem. Ships is kind of a different thing than characters. So as we go through this, when you see the characters and ships, just kind of treat them maybe like as individual, your ship ranking versus character ranking. Yeah, okay, a capiche? Hope so. I don't know, because I had a hard time figuring out how do I compare the two. I think the main goal of this video is mainly, especially for those that are doing proving grounds, you're gonna hit a point where you're gonna unlock like several of these bad boys at once. You might be like, oh man, where's my resources worth putting into? Because a lot of these are Cairo heavy characters that maybe require teams that you gotta flesh out as well. And you kind of want to know, all right, what's better than this? What should get my resources? So let's get into it and kind of break this puppy down. And I think here's the thing, no matter what your list is, I think a grand majority, I'm gonna say 99% of people, if you had to rank the Conquest units, dead last would be Boba Fett sign of Django. And I have literally one word to describe this unit. Let me clear my throat. I'm not kidding, people. Yes, there's a rankings in here, and some are better than others. I literally think this guy is next to useless. He is the reason why we have the phrase garbanzo beans. But let me go ahead and try to give some reasoning behind this. Where to begin? I think the biggest thing that's holding Boba Fett sign of Django back is the fact the Bounty Hunter Kitchen, it's got a lot of good stuff going on. You only can have 5 units. What makes Boba Fett's sign of Django superior to something like Mando, Grief Karga potentially? If you're trying to use a leadership in a grand majority of situations, there's already a better lead somewhere. Fennec Shan, for example. Yes, I'm gonna acknowledge that Boba Fett's sign of Django is good against Lord Vader, for example, in Territory Wars, but you need Omicrons, and Fennec gets the job done for the most part without Omicrons, and it works in Squad Arena, Territory Wars, and Grand Arena. It's just one of those characters that doesn't really do anything that revolutionizes, evolutionizes the Bounty Hunter faction. For the most part, Bounty Hunters can do the same thing with him and the same thing without him. And the problem is, this isn't really a cheap Bounty Hunter to get up and running. You need Omicrons if you want to get Territory War competitive with him, and he needs a lot of Chirotech. There are just other better Bounty Hunters that are cheaper to get up and running. And the other biggest disappointment, they tried revitalizing him through the use of the Tusken Chieftain Omicron for 3v3 Grand Arena. Number one, that kind of sucks. He's only good for a very small portion of Grand Arena. And the biggest issue is there's a better Tusken lineup that doesn't even use him. Tusken Raider, Omicron, Tusken Chieftain, as well as the Tusken Warrior. There was a brief stint where Boba Fett was kind of useful in there, but there's just a better and cheaper Tusken team than this. I think one of the biggest ways to make this guy more useful is maybe just throwing out a permanent Tusken tag. Boom, bada bing, let's solve the problem. Make the Tusken Chieftain's Omicron for all Grand Arena modes. Not saying that's gonna make him amazing. Right now, I literally never use this guy. And even in Territory Wars, where I'm in one of the biggest Territory War guilds out there, I can't remember the last time we used this guy. Months ago? It's a big disappointment in general. I would say when you unlock Boba Fett's sign of Django, you leave him at level 1. And the proof is in the pudding. This is my free-to-play account. I have 0 expectations to upgrade him anytime soon. So that's number 15 on the list. Let's keep this show moving along. Number 14 on the list is going to be Admiral Trench. All right, So you guys maybe thought I was gonna put Trench as dead last. No, I feel like that would be an insult to Trench. Do I think Trench is an amazing character? No. Do I think he's a character you should build up? No. This is one of those characters kind of like Boba Fett's Sign of Django where you can live your Galaxy hero's life in peace without having to build this guy up. However, unlike Boba Fett, who was not really able to lift the bounty hunters to a new height that they haven't seen, Trench kind of does. Trench with your Separatists, your Dooku, Django, Wat Tambor, whatever you want to throw in there, at least makes the team a little bit better. So there's actually a noticeable impact. How much better? Nothing like super transformative where, the seas part and you see the angels coming from yay on high telling you that Trench is the chosen one. Not that good. Yes, of course, there are Datacrons that'll make him better. His Omicrons are all right too. But the biggest issue that I see is that right now, Trench requires units that are kind of in also other good avenues in the game. For example, Django is kind of a cornerstone to this, but Django, as we're going to talk about, has a much better purpose somewhere else. Trench is the worst character? No. Is he complete trash? No. He's at least usable, but man, if this is another one of those guys you unlocked, you probably have better things that you should be investing your Kyrotech and Omicrons in than this guy. Number 14, Admiral Trench. All right, number 13, I'm going to say this. Trench and Boba are going to be our lower tier units. Moving on up, yes, there's going to be different rankings, obviously, so some are better than others. I'd say everything from here on up is at least useful at minimum. Like, you actually kind of need it. And number 13 on the list is going to be Ben Solo. He's been solo. He's been solo. Saving the red exit. Okay, anyways. All right, Ben Solo. Let me just put it straight. Is he a necessary thing? He kind of is. If you want to make sure your raid, Galactic Legend raid that is, stay relevant in the end game, you need Ben. This is a must-have. If you don't have a Galactic Legend raid, I would say this guy is probably lower than Boba Fett's Sign of Django. Seeing that he's kind of the focal point to keep the raid team alive through the power of Force Diet inside of Grand Raider, even in territories. This guy gets a lot of action with Galactic Legend raid. Being able to make the raid cheese a little bit cheesier by having it be a more complicated puzzle where you can't kill off Rey unless Ben's dead, but then Ben kind of revives a lot. I think here's the problem with Ben Solo. He's kind of bland. He's just there to kind of serve a singular purpose to prolong the Galactic Legend raid presence inside the battlefield. It's kind of like having chicken that's unseasoned. Yeah, it's still good, but is it like tasty? Is it like making you go, baby? Not really. I guess to kind of maybe give this guy some more credit, since he's an unaligned Force user, you could maybe throw him in an unaligned Force user team of some sort, maybe with Seer Junda and Malakos. We got a little bit before we hit Malakos, let me tell you that. But overall, this is a necessary character. If you're ever going to get Rey, you need this. But otherwise, he's not really very useful with the other Rey, Jedi Training Rey, and he's just kind of a bland character. So I would recommend not upgrading this guy until you got Galactic Legend Rey. Let's move on. So folks, here's where things get a little complicated. We're going to talk about our first Conquest unit. That's SHIP. For the YouTube reviewer out there. Oh my God, what did he say? Again, here's the problem. I would kind of take this as a separate ranking from the characters because, again, how do you rank characters against ships? Very difficult. Two very different game modes in this game. But I'm going to rank the next unit, number 12, to be the Scythe. Scythe. Kind of a roller coaster of a ship unit here. I think there are way more important ship units in this game. There is really only one time I really like my Scythe, and that is when I'm using this guy to take down Leviathan. That is the thing that makes this guy a necessary thing in the game. Being able to get the buff this spell through intimidating flyover, which gives you tons of durability and offense required to try to nuke out ships on the Leviathan. Getting the predatory instincts to give you a massive boost of health and protection. It's just one of those things where you need it to take out the Leviathan. Beyond that, you don't really need the Scythe. It's fine, you can use it with, your Empire lineups against the Ghost Shooter, use it with your Empire stuff against, the Executor and Profundity, but it's not really necessary until you enter the territory of Leviathan. Also, kind of a side thing, it requires one of the most lackluster characters in the game, or legendaries, I should say, Grand Inquisitor. Whereas, my opinion, I really don't recommend getting Grand Inquisitor until you have Reva, or if you're noticing you're encountering a lot of Leviathans in Grand Arena, you probably are going to need this up and running. I think there are way more important ships in the game, but nonetheless, I wouldn't be able to do what I can do in Grand Arena in the ships area if I have it. So again, not a trash unit, but there are just more important things for us to talk about. So let's just say this, in terms of ship ranking, I would say this is the last place ship. Speaking of which, we're gonna talk about another ship. We are gonna put the Razor Crest above Scythe. Technically, I guess overall, this is our number 11 slot. And again, I'm kind of having a hard time balancing characters versus ships. If you watch my older Conquest video with when there was only a handful of stuff, we put Razor Crest super high because, well, it was super necessary to get your Exactor, which was crazy dominant at the time. Well, times have changed. This guy is still a necessary thing moving forward in the game. You can't get your Executor to be what it's supposed to be unless you got this thing right here. So that alone makes it more important than the Scythe. Where the Scythe is kind of a one-dimensional thing necessary to counter, Leviathan. This is needed to form one of the biggest fleets in the game. I will say overall, the Scythe, let me put it this way. I think the Scythe is a more interesting ship than Razor Crest, but the Razor Crest is a more fundamental part of the fleet. Overall, I find Razor Crest kits to be, it's kind of basic, It's the Jedi Knight Revan of ships, basically. It allows you to kind of navigate your way around the field. Is it a bad ship? No, but there are just going to be more important ships. IMO. Let's keep moving. We're moving back into character La La Land over here. Number 10 in our Conquest unit ranking video is gonna be Dark Trooper Moff Gideon. Let me tell you, man, this was, gosh, it's gonna get super competitive moving here and now. Not everything can be number 1. Someone's gotta be a 10. Someone's gotta be the 5, the 1, the 15. Since we have so much more moving forward, technically I guess this could be higher if you ignore the next couple ships we're gonna discuss here. We're gonna put Gideon at number 10, and let me just again emphasize this before we move forward here. I actually really enjoy Dark Trooper Moff Gideon. This is the guy that teaches Trench and Boba Fett Side of Django how you go about things. Yes, he's mostly dominant in a territory war format. He's got territory war Omicron. He is extremely useful outside of territory wars and even before the Omicrons and the Datacrons. The thing I love about Dark Trooper Moff Gideon, his lead is so good. Being able to shut down a variety of teams that rely on turn meter. I mean, look at this. Whenever an enemy gains bonus turn meter or a bonus turn, they lose 10% defense, offense, and turn meter until the end of their next turn. Dark Trooper Moff Gideon is a decent counter up against Afra, Star Killer, shuts down things like Commander Luke Skywalker, Imperial Troopers, and of course, you guys know Datacrons can really fudge. Getting to be even better, where sometimes he can enter Galactic Legend counter territory. Overall, although he is a number 10, I enjoy this team so much. Biggest downsides to this guy is the fact that he's not an Imperial Trooper. He's kind of one-dimensional. He's really only meant to lead an Imperial Remnant faction, which still I feel like is not a super mainstream team in the game, but still nonetheless a ton of fun to use. And I guess you could technically use him in a taunting capacity. Sometimes he could be used of Maul, he could be used of Lord Vader. But for the most part, I'm evaluating him based off him leading an Imperial Remnant team, which is a team that's slowly getting a bit more love over time. But simply him having something to do with turn meter, anti-turn meter that is, that alone will keep him relevant for a long time. Turn meter is one of the foundational things in Star Wars Galaxy Heroes and turn-based RPGs. And as long as turn meter is going to be a thing moving forward, this guy's likely going to have some fun with it and dunk on some fools. Let me just tell you, it is so satisfying when you're using Gideon and the enemy's only doing like 1 damage, 1 critical damage. It's pretty satisfying. So this kind of pains me, but I think we have more important Conquest units moving forward. And you know what? I say let's just knock out these next 2 ships. The last 2 ships, I should say. Coming in at number 9 overall on my list, or I guess the second highest ranked ship for Conquest units. I don't know how to talk about it. It's gotta be Fury class Interceptor. Ooh, baby. All right, let me give you a few pitches for this guy. Number 1, you can actually use this ship pre-Leviathan to, for example, make some of your Empire lineups be able to beat things like Profundity. Throwing in your Fury class Interceptor with your Sith Bomber, and then, I don't know, you can throw in, Chimera lead, Tarkin lead. You can actually do some pretty solid work with this guy before you get Leviathan. It's going to be a much different game once you get Leviathan, but at least this is one of those units that could definitely be useful. However, of course, we've got to examine the fact that once he's in Leviathan, he forms the number 1 capital ship. And that's pretty much it. He's a necessary thing. He's in the number 1 capital ship right now, and he's actually useful with your Empire lineups. There's really not much much more to say about this. It's kind of a one-dimensional thing, but it's an important one-dimensional thing. But hear me out. I'm wondering if we're going to be on the same page. You guys understand deduction. You guys know what's coming. We're going to rank what I think is the most important, best budget overall Conquest ship, and that is going to be my Interceptor prototype. So overall, I'm putting this as number 8 in our list. Do what you want with that. I don't think it really matters too much how it relates to characters. The reason why I think this is the most important, it's Conquest ship. Again, yes, Malakos is required for Leviathan. Razor Crest is required for the Executor. I think the reason why I like this ship so much, it turns a very accessible fleet, or I should say fleets, into powerhouses. The TIE Interceptor, number 1, doesn't even need to be geared up. I mean, how much better does that get? Literally, let me show it to you this way. Here's my free-to-play account where I have a pretty garbanzo beans second sister. It doesn't matter. This ship is useful at 5 stars, 6 and 7 stars. Who the heck cares? You don't need a high gear second sister. All you need is the pure existence of this thing in your reinforcements, which enables your Chimera as well as your Tarkin's Executrix. Make it counter pretty much every capital ship in the game. We talked about Scythe. The Scythe couldn't do what it can do unless you had this. Chimera wouldn't be able to counter any of these big capital ships unless you had this. This turns free-to-play accessible fleets into uber competitive endgame fleets. It's a little funny. In order to understand where all the power is coming from, you kind of got to check out Darth Vader's TIE Advanced to really understand it all. At the start of battle, if all allies are Empire, Inquisitors, or Sith, and TIE Interceptors into reinforcements, Allied Empire capital ship cooldowns reduced by 1, including call reinforcements. And right here, baby, is where that magic happens. Having Vader in the starting lineup and just throwing that Interceptor somewhere to reinforcements, you don't even have to call it out. It's literally just there to make your Chimera pretty much turn 1. If you set up the fleet right, turn 1, bring out your TIE Defender, and we don't need to talk too much about that. This ship, I feel like, could have been a Conquest unit. Someone could have sold me that this should have been a Conquest unit. I like this more than the Scythe, for example. But being able to bring out your TIE Defender pretty much turn 1 when the Chimera goes really quickly, it makes life so amazing. So hopefully it makes sense why I think the TIE Interceptor is the most important ship in Conquest. You know, most important, it's a very relative term. You know, you can use that to judge a variety of metrics. But low star viable, low star accessible, I should say, too. You don't have to wait till it's 7 stars. Low gear viable, being able to counter multiple endgame ships. That's a thumbs up for me. So folks, now we got good news. Now that the ship thing is out of the way, everything pretty much from here on out is going to be character rankings. Again, I'm just going to be straight out transparent with you guys. I had a hard time kind of balancing how to rank a ship compared to a character. So if you rank the ship higher, okay, sure. The characters, I think, are the more exciting thing. So, number 7 on our list is gonna be Darth Bane! Oh man, I know we're gonna make some blood boil here, people, but we just gotta look at the facts again. Not everyone's gonna be number 1, but don't let it fool you. Yes, he's number 7 on the list, which kind of puts him kind of in that midpoint, you know, halfway. He's very good. He's very important. But as we're gonna see moving forward, the next Conquest units we're gonna discuss can counter Galactic Legends. A lot of them can counter Galactic Legends without Omicrons. I want you guys to remember, when Malakos first came out, a lot of people were kind of disappointed in him in pre-Omicron gameplay. Obviously, with the Omicrons, we saw that he held kind of the crown for Grand Arena for about a year or so until Cal Kestis, Jedi Knight Cal Kestis, made an appearance in game. Basically, Malakos's pitch in the game is that he is not quite a Galactic Legend, but he's pretty close, where if you're going to try to beat this guy in a non-Datacron fashion, you almost need to either use a Galactic Legend or a top-tier team to knock him down on defense. But even now that we're seeing his defensive era at endgame kind of slowly kind of get died out, still useful in some capacity, we're seeing him now turn into an offensive thing, where he's great for countering things like Reva. Under non-Datacron conditions, can counter Gungans. I think the biggest thing that's going to hold this guy back is the fact that he's just not an endgame Galactic Legend killer. Maybe Master Luke, but that's kind of it, barring Datacrons, of course. He's useful in Territory Wars too, which is good, and of course, he's required for the Fury class Interceptor, so I guess there's probably points to be given there as well. You kind of need this to get that to get Leviathan. Overall, again, Yes, he's not number one. I think we got more important number 1, 2s, and 3s. I still like this guy a lot. If he maybe took down a few more GLs, he'd probably be up in the list a bit more. But now we move on to number 6, and that's gonna be Luan Rail. He's kind of new on the block. I want to put this out there. Let's just put this out into the wilderness. This guy's the latest Conquest unit that we just unlocked. Luan Rail, and he's the real deal. Is he? I mean, okay, I get it. All right, calm down. Just hear me out. I'll grant you that in terms of like coolness, what's cooler? A Luan Rail, a guy that's basically working at a Star Wars pawn shop, or a Sith Lord? Yeah, obviously the Sith Lord's cooler, but it's cooler what this guy can do in game, baby. Luan Rail is a fantastic addition. He's able to supercharge at the minimum 2 rebel teams you probably got lingering in your inventory, baby. Throw him in a Mon Mothma team, pow! Taking down a variety of galactic legends. You got a Saw Gerrera, a Ka-chow! He's gonna supercharge that team as well. And unlike Malakos, who wasn't really super impressive with Squadron, literally day 1, we're able to get Luan Rail in the variety of different lineups to beat things like Galactic Legend Rey, Lord Vader, Supreme Leader Kylo Ren if you use Saw Gerrera potentially, sometimes even Galactic Legend Leia, sometimes a Jabba the Hutt. It's a one-banger character. One of my favorite things. Someone releases one character, supercharge the team you likely have geared up, or you have to gear up. You have to build up a Mon Mothma team. You throw that guy in there, and you can beat things like Rey, Lord Vader's, maybe a Leia. That's kind of a big deal. And again, pre-Omicron, which is great. And of course, we've talked at great length about his Omicrons, being able to give you a massive boost to your rebel fighters. Man. So I hope we kind of see the distinction between Malakos and Luan. Yeah, maybe I would give Malakos a better edge on defensive performance, but Luan with Saw Gerrera can be kind of annoying, and you're gonna kind of need something of high caliber to take it down, it seems. But Luan is able to supercharge multiple lineups and is able to beat Galactic Legends straight out of the box, and you don't need high relics. Malakos, you kind of need high relics. This guy just kind of has to exist. But now we're gonna move on to Mambo number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 5 on the list is Queen Amadala. A little bit of Amadala in my life, a little bit of Padawan on my side, a little bit of Qui-Gon's all I need. All right, shut up! Queen Amadala, number 5 on the list here. And I gotta be straight with you guys. This one, I kept staring at it. We need to kind of wait for like the seas to settle. She's been getting back-to-back powerful Datacron, which kind of feels like it's kind of, skewing our experience in Grand Arena. But even so, when I look at non-Grand Arena, non-Datacron performance, Queen Amadala forms a very annoying defensive team. Kind of almost reminds of what Malakos felt like in Grand Arena defense for about the first year he came out, where he was like pretty much unbeatable for a lot of teams out there. Queen Amadala kind of replicates that. That handmaiden decoy is such a big problem to deal with. A character that can't get any status effects on her. She's pre-taunting. She's got an undispellable taunt. The Queen Amadala team is so beefy, got so much damage on the team. And I'm also going to give a little bit of bonus points here. If you don't have Padawan, Obi-Wan, Master Qui-Gon, we're also seeing Queen Amadala does pretty good up with her hubby, General Anakin Skywalker. We've shown that Queen Amadala in a spit spot on General Anakin Skywalker makes a nice addition. Feels like it makes General Skywalker more consistent against some Galactic Legends. And now the note of Galactic Legends, if you're just going to do Queen Amadala lead, we see she can take down a few GLs on offense. She feels like a better version of Malakos, where she has a defensive prowess, but she can also knock down a few GLs, such as potentially, Galactic Legend Rey. And kind of a temporary thing, a couple months down the road, this won't matter, but right now she is kind of the focal point of the current Naboo raid. Again, yes, it's important right now, but a year from now, if you're watching this video, it's probably not gonna be that important. Overall, annoying on defense, great on offense, and again, I know sometimes you don't like to talk about the D word, Datacrons, but Datacrons are a real thing, and man, I just feel like this is one of those teams that's gonna get a lot of benefit from Datacrons over the course of time. They just got so much crazy stuff going on that leads to itself a lot of great Datacron potential. And now, people, we're gonna get to the top 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Anyways, number 4 on the list. I love the top 4 is where things get really exciting. Number 4 on my list, baby. It's gotta be Malakos, the king of rocks. Where Rey is all the Jedi, this guy is all the rocks. Woo! Freaking Malakos, baby. Let's just put this straight out the get-go. This is a super flexible character. I'm not talking about in a circus sense. Yes, I'm sure he'd be great in acrobatics in a circus, but we're talking flexibility in terms of building teams and galaxies. Yes, of course, the number one focal point, Scythe, obviously the core home of Malakos Witch. Scythe and Malakos, they take down a couple of galactic legends in a grand arena experience. A little bit different than Luan, who can kind of beat GLs without the Omicrons. You kind of need the Omicrons in grand arena, or in territory wars with, for example, the Cal and Ahsoka Tano Fulcrum Omicrons. You could throw this guy in a Scythe. You could throw this guy even in Rey lineups if you wanted to, which is kind of funny. You could throw this in a Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, a Lord Vader lineup. I've seen him be used with Reva, simply being an unaligned Force user and having unique abilities that kind of fill into a variety of unaligned Force user based teams. You're going to get a lot of great miles out of this guy. And again, this guy hits hard and he takes down a couple of galactic legends in game. The biggest thing is the flexibility. Unlike things like Ben, where there's no point in upgrading Ben unless you have Rey. There's no point in upgrading Trench unless you have all your Scepters. There's no point in upgrading Darth Bane Gideon unless you have the Imperial Remnants. Malakos, chances are you have a galactic legend. You have some sort of unaligned Force user team that can utilize him. Such a fun character, but we got even more important characters. Let's go to number 3. Number 3 on the list. Oh man, Commander Ahsoka Tano. I can never win with this argument. With myself, that is. Who's the better unit? Commander Tano, Maul. There are such great arguments for both of them. I'm gonna put this here. The number one reason why Commander Tano needs to be in your top 3. I'm convincing you, needs to be. Not maybe, needs to be. No Omicrons. We take for granted these Conquest units, or just characters in general, that are so good without Omicrons. Omicrons are such a valuable expense in this game, and Commander Tano kind of marked, as well as Maul, the last era where Conquest units didn't need Omicrons. They just released a great character, no Omicron required, and I feel like we've really strayed away from what the original intention should have been of Omicrons, but that's a whole different point, whole different conversation. Let's focus on the task at hand. Commander Tano, yes, no Omicrons. Number 2, kind of important to make Master Kenobi an absolute monster unit. Big difference with Master Kenobi with and without Commander Ahsoka Tano. Insta-kill, duh! But she's got a degree of plug-and-play viability. Since she's an unaligned Force user and a scoundrel and a Galactic Republic user, you can throw her in, for example, a Galactic Legend raid lineup. I guess you could technically throw her with the Scythe if you wanted to. She's a scoundrel, so you could throw her in things with like Dash Rendar, Beskar Mando, and she's a Galactic Republic member, so you could, for example, until you build up Master Kenobi, she's pretty killer with things like Padme Amadala. I will say though, the tides are turning a little bit in this game. We're seeing a lot of new characters, a lot of new teams have ways to pretty much nullify Commander Tano. Galactic Legend Leia can't reduce cooldowns. Queen Amadala, handmaiden decoy that's expendable. Luthen Rail has a summonable command trooper, a rebel trooper commander that's just meant to die off. Jabba the Hutt has Cursanta that can just revive afterwards. Ezra Bridger has anti-insta-kill stuff. Ben Solo's got anti-insta-kill stuff. So I think I'm kind of convinced myself that I don't think she should be higher than this, because of all the things that are kind of boxing her up, but she is still so good, easily top 3 in my opinion. But when there's a yin, there's a yang. When there's a little bit of peanut butter, you know jelly's right around the corner. And what I'm talking about is our number 2 on the list, Maul. I mean, come on, doesn't that little sell you on him as being number 2? I think in the debate between Commander Tano and Maul, these guys are always neck to neck, rightfully so, right? I always lean lately. I think Maul is the better Conquest unit compared to Tano. Again, Tano's still bangalicious, but Maul is just a little bit bangalicious. Number 1, again, no Omicrons on this bad boy. I don't want us to take for granted and forget how great that is. Number 2 also has plug and play viability like Commander Tano. We have a variety of great tags here. Unaligned Force user, obviously with Lord Vader, kind of like Master Kenobi. Lord Vader without Maul, it's kind of bad. With Maul, a little bit better. You could throw it in, for example, in lineups like Scythe and Malakos, pretty good combo. But the thing that I really like about this guy, you can get a lot of great mileage building a powerful team. So good, so good. that I get so much regret using him with Lord Vader, because Maul with the Mandalorians, the dark side Mandalorians, is such a fun team. Maul with Canderous, Super Commando, Garsax, and Jango, and kind of why we said it's kind of sucky to put Jango with Trench, because Jango's so good of Maul. With the recent Super Commando rework that we got not too long ago, it turned Maul into a Galactic Legend Slayer. You can beat some Galactic Legends. You can beat top tier teams that aren't Galactic Legends with Maul. I mean, under non-Datacron conditions, being able to get Maul to beat Jedi Master Kenobi, how poetic. And how amazing is that? I like this guy a lot. This guy is so much fun. And unlike Commander Tano, where we're seeing a lot of new teams kind of box her in, there hasn't really been a lot of resistance against Maul. Maybe over time there will be. Overall, I feel like Maul is the better Conquest unit compared to Tano. But man, it's like comparing a Bugatti or a Ferrari. They're both good. In the wise words of Riff Raff, I want a Ferrari. I want a Ferrari. Okay, I wonder what's gonna be number one, people. Leave your guesses down below. Who is going to be the #1 ranked Conquest unit? And before you even write that below, just know this is a quiz. This is the final exam. If you mess this up, your account will be deleted in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. Just kidding. #1 Conquest unit in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes is factually, definitively, no debate required. Darth Bane! Yes! #1, he's got a banging music video, by the way. I mean, come on. This guy came from the Sith graveyard to drop a hot diss track on his fellow Sith lords. Beyond the point, this is super simple. #1, yes, he has Omicrons. Yes, we know that. He's not like Maul Commander Tano. Pre-Omicrons, #1, he is so good. Day one, when we brought Darth Bane out there into the battlefield and Squadron and no Omicrons, no Datacrons, we were pretty much dunking on every single Galactic Legend, barring maybe Jabba and Master Kenobi. But the biggest thing here, the biggest difference between him, the boys, the men, the chocolate from the caramel, is the fact that this is a 2-man. All the other teams out there, you gotta build up all the 5-man teams. Malakos team, there's a lot of Kyrotech in a Seer Junda lineup. A Queen Amadala lineup requires a lot of Kyrotech on the Padawan Obi-Wan and Master Qui-Gon. This guy, I kid you not, take your Bane, whatever Sith you have built up. Yes, there are some Sith better than others in certain circumstances, but in general, for the most part, whatever Sith you have at decent relic levels, throw it with Bane, you're gonna beat pretty much everything in the game, barring weird Datacrons that make things a little bit more complicated for him. That right there is huge. It's essentially a 1-man army team, being able to beat a variety of things. But it comes at a cost. The biggest cost of Bane is that he is possibly one of the worst defensive units because, well, I mean, I'm no mathematician. I'm no rocket surgeon. But rule of 2 means 2! Unfortunately, if you start throwing more than 2 units with Darth Bane, he loses all this magical jazz in here. There's no jazz hands all of a sudden. I often see this mistake be made a lot. Not saying he's like completely useless, but you know, the thing that makes Bane Bane is this unique, which requires only 2 characters. So again, you could use him in a full man team, but it's just not nearly the same thing. A 1-man army team, you don't need to build up any new faction to use him. He's great without Omicrons. And let me tell you, you're gonna smile for miles with this. This is right now basically a Galactic Legend offensively in the game. When you unlock this guy, I want you guys to be beyond excited. This is the guy that makes me say, you know what? I love playing Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. And on that note, I hope you guys are loving the game as well as loving this video. And I gotta say, I love being with you guys here today. So we're gonna put on the screen one more time the 15 Conquest units ranked in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. You know, we're splitting hairs. Maybe it's more pragmatic to do like a tier list because I think it'll make us feel better. But overall, I'd say 90% of these Conquest units are at least necessary. And I'd say at least over half are really good and things to look forward to. Only a few that I would say they're kind of passable. Really, I would say at most maybe 3 of these are passable. Ben, if you don't have Rey, Trench, and Boba. Otherwise, unlocking a Conquest unit is an extreme accomplishment. But you know what? The next time I make this video, we're gonna have even more Conquest units, and who knows, maybe someone's gonna dethrone this guy. So leave that like, comment down below, subscribe so you're not missing a thing, and always remember, it's great to be in the Empire today. It's great to be in the Empire today.